a boat.
I see coming from Cuba. You guys, what is this? All this fire and machines and the man working remind you guys of? To me, it looks like Titanic because where they hit that iceberg and it hit the water started to come in and the men were downstairs trying to get it moving again.
Looks like a boat and maybe it crashed.
That reminds me of Titanic because of the water.
How do you guys feel about this painting?
But the part where they had to grab the shovel and they had to pick up that little stone thing to throw it inside the oven to make fire. Yeah, the coal.
It reminds me of back in the day when they had their men working really hard to get a job or whatever.
I see fire and water and stone and people and guns and more stone and hooks and metal and lights.
Someplace like back in the
90s?
80s or 90s. That looks like the boxes. It has like yellow and it looks like gold.
Okay, I see men, they working, they building stuff, they gotta do stuff with fire. Boyer's painting highlighted another innovation of the Bridgeport Brass Company. In 1937, the company installed a semi-continuous rolling mill, which rolled raw brass into wired widths of increased production.
You guys know about Wall Street? Where a lot of people ran out of work. They had no jobs. And they were homeless and they were hungry.
So the government gave them jobs.
And this is to me, I think it looks like they're happy with what they're doing because they finally found work or money they can give to their family to feed them.
The artist's their job was to make the workers look happy. Whether the workers were happy or not, these artists intended to make them look proud to have work that was good work.
What's the title?
Open mind.
Open Mind. Ben, any comments?
I think that's what I think the last result, you do have your mind in a dictatorship. Because that's one thing that any sort of government cannot take away from you, is your mind and thinking.
I wonder what the man standing outside, he go inside of the maze, because he probably gets trapped inside and don't know how to get out.
I think it means separation because you have these two men on both sides and maybe one went in like they was trying to stay together but they got separated. Like maybe that's U.S. and maybe that's Cuba.
That since like the brain, it's like in the shape of a brain. I think maybe the maze stands for your thoughts or what you're feeling, and maybe the men who were inside the maze were lost in their own thoughts and what they felt about, and they were maybe caught up in between everything that was going on. Cuba, maybe they were lost in between and just lost.
Your brain is like a maze or a labyrinth. Freedom and all is a state of mind. Okay.
What do you guys see?
I see a knife going through 3 suitcases.
What we think that artist felt was probably like no more traveling or something like that, because when the Americans and like the Cubans, they weren't allowed to enter through each other and they stopped trading, this probably meant like no traveling.
The knife meant like stop, and then the suitcases were like for travel, and it's like stop traveling from Cuba to America.
It reminds me of being violated in the airport, since when they scan your briefcases and such, they look into your stuff and they see if you got any weapons or anything, just like the terrorist attack in 9/11.
This particular artist I know very well for his paintings and his drawings, because you also notice, I believe it's like either a cow and a pig, and then X again. I guess those are the positions where if you need to slaughter an animal, that's the area that you need to slaughter with a knife. But the knife in Cuban, in the culture, but in the arts, have a great significance. What does knives do? Kill. One. What else?
Cook.
Cut. What else?
Stab.
Right. So you say, oh, yeah, but those are very good analogies that you're putting together. But interesting is the whole thing you said about the traveling ban and everything else. There is the way that I went to Cuba. I couldn't go and buy a ticket and go USA as a tourist. I couldn't go. Here is my permission. So I went for humanitarian and artistic purposes, and that's how I got access to the country.
What do you guys see?
I see a man that's being constantly yelled.
I see a man walking with 2 loudspeakers next to his ear.
I see a soldier like he's just walking on the street while he has to protect something, and he's just gonna ignore the sirens and the speakers.
I see a soldier that's trying to tell everybody to stop yelling at him because he's always been yelled at when he's in the army.
I see a woman in the back.
It's good that you noticed that.
I see little Lindsay Lohan on the poster right there.
Okay, a question to the whole class. Do you think that the soldier is an American or Cuban soldier?
A Cuban.
Are you sure?
American.
Because why isn't the billboard in Spanish? Why is it in English?
But what if he's Cuban, but in America?
Oh, okay. You're thinking.
Like he looks Cuban, but he's in America. So since he's not, most Cubans can't get into America, and most Americans can't get into Cuba, it makes me feel like he's like being annoyed by dictators.
Advertisements, okay, tell me what they're like.
They try to endorse a product.
Yes.
Where do you hear them?
TV, them on TV.
TV, on commercials.
Billboards all over, right? Are they loud and intrusive and trying to get your attention all the time and you can't get away from it?
Especially when you're watching TV. It's a really good show. And then it wants to try to sell you something that you don't want to buy, but it looks interesting, so you buy it anyway.
So do you think the megaphones do the same thing?
Trying to sell you an idea or a product, right?
Or no matter of crowd control?
The megaphones, and you guys can see the racks, and it's like it's connecting on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me feel like he has like a big weight on his shoulders.
Good.
Something on his mind.
Very good. Excellent.
What emotions do you feel when you look at this picture?
This picture reminds me of like my parents yelling at me and I did something wrong.
That picture reminds me of school.
And is 40 years old. He examines nationalism, identity, and the institution of the military. He's a veteran fighting in the War of Independence in Gold Africa in the 1980s. He tries to find connection between the military and civilian life in Cuba. His photographs are symbolic, not realistic.
I see a girl that looks like the Mona Lisa.
I see a girl with a Nike sign.
I just noticed that.
We saw nails, a girl, eyebrows, hair, ears, 2 holes, sideburns, and acne.
I wonder why she's putting nails in her ears and in her eyes. I feel like the lady is trying to like block all the foul language and sees too much crime in the world and hears too much violence. It reminds me of a girl that is being hurt by all this pain in the world. I think that the artist is trying to tell us to stop doing all this violence and dumb stuff in the world.
This is one of the artists that I had the opportunity last year to meet. And interesting, her whole studio is filled with thousands and thousands of these pins. And and she has to wear these little things to make sure she doesn't get poked and bleed and everything else that she has. But that's her art.
Someone tell me one thing they see with their eyes, please.
I can see that this is actually real suitcases. Just jabbed in.
Do you guys think this knife is real or fake?
Fake.
What is it?
Suitcases. Leather.
Like this is Cuba.
Street journal.
She is a artist in Cuba. And as you guys know, Cuba is very bad now. Communist and bad ruling and stuff.
Eyes that don't wish to see. That means like she doesn't wish to see no violence, no killing, nothing in the world that's actually gonna hurt somebody. She doesn't want to see it or hear it.
Who would feel the same way? Who would want to feel they don't want to see any violence in front of their eyes, no blood? So this is the concept of what she's trying to say. She's saying that what she sees with her eyes is pain.
That's why she's blocking her ears and blocking her eyes from everything.
Put those in her eyes.
How did she put those in her eyes?
We have learned that she had put like a patch on her eye and just sticks the needles in one by one. But for her ear, she would have put like cardboard. She cut the cardboard out and put it in her ear and then just stick it in.
What do you feel about these two pictures?
It's kind of still a little bit weird.
What makes you think? You notice the needles in the frame? She has needles everywhere. Yeah, in her office she has a lot of needles. Is this normal? It's not like every day you go see somebody putting needles in your eyes and ears. What do you see? How do you think this woman is feeling?
Because she doesn't want to hear everybody saying that they can't travel to America or go back and forth, and she's sick and tired of being trapped, basically.
Museums, Ferris wheels, waters, planets, more cars, buildings.
The president's on his way to somewhere, and the people are here. And also, I'm
Feeling like this van and this car and these cars, it's on crash.
These cars are going this way.
Yeah, that car's going that way.
No, this
Cars
is
are going this way.
As soon as this car comes up, these cars right here have to move on to this one. So it's time.
No. What you think?
All of them are wearing like different colors.
Oh, how do you know that those are people and not just some stuff on the side of the road?
What would it smell or sound like in there? An oil?
It looks like that. Because you see that wheel thing right there and like the roof.
And you know what this is a building.
So it's going to be famous or stuff? Did you notice there were people on the side? Like,
Yeah, she knows.
It looks like outer space.
how do you think the artist felt while he was doing this painting?
Colorful, creative thing. They have to use their brains to go through the maze.
Why do you think there's only two people outside of the maze?
One of them is going in.
One that's going in.
One of them already got out. It looks like one is scared, one is screaming over there.
Yeah, it does, kind of.
Yeah, it looks like he's screaming.
Yeah, it does. It does.
If you guys were in this maze or in one of those little tiny peoples, what would you feel?
They're trying to watch the people that's doing it. That way they'll know how to get out.
Last thing said was to get out Cuba, try to escape, get a new life.
You guys know that this was in Cuba. It's a soldier for 4 years, right? And you said a guy that can hear really well.
Oh, what would he hear? What do you think he would hear with so many ears?
I heard everything.
Would you want 3 ears like he does, or would you want just one?
Just
One.
Why do you?
Two.
Do you think this is like the artist himself?
Or he just took a picture.
Yeah, took a picture.
What are your emotions about this?
Sad.
Do you guys think he was like being yelled at? Or
I think he feels very upset because people think he's abnormal. What do you think the message is? You don't have to treat people wrong even if they're different. A lot of these paintings represent a lot of things that goes on in Cuba. To me, the 3 years on the guy reminds me of he hears like everything that goes on around.
I think that men and boys look at this differently, I think.
Well, I think like
like she had a kid, and then I think like in this one, like her husband died.
Yeah, but how would she get a mask? Put it in her face. Because it's hiding her face.
She's trying to be.
She turned around, so I didn't know because it's hiding her true face.
Well, the beads represent slavery. Well, when you're in slavery, you guys know that you have hard labor.
Okay.
They walk around barefoot, and well, because they don't have no shoes, and they have to walk around like in sand and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the feet will get dirty.
The beads would represent like memories or dreams that you would have.
Is this feet of a woman or a man? What do you think?
It looks like a woman.
Because why would a man have beads on his feet?
Women have to wear like no shoes, and I think men have to wear shoes because men are more upper class than women.
Does anybody have any other thing about pearls? What would that? Precious, yeah, valuable, expensive if they're real.
Pearls like kind of represent like looking like famous and stuff, wearing all nice and cute looking things.
Okay, so for you it's famous and cute. Yeah, I thought it was woman definitely because we think pearl is woman.
Yeah.
However, you know who this is?
A man.
That's him.
It's a man?
It's an art. He's the artist. He's the artist. How many thought it was a man's feet? No woman would have toenails like that, right?
Well, what about slavery?
Okay, what about the pearls? So the artist, he took a picture of his own feet and he put pearls on them. So what is he trying to say? If you just saw him without the pearls, block the pearls, would you think that was a man or a woman?
A man.
Yeah, but then he puts the pearls on, we go, oh, then it's a woman. Must be a poor woman. So think of that, the power of the symbol of pearls. It makes us totally almost ignore the details we see with our eyes.
Yeah, it does. I think
Right?
he's trying to trick the person who's looking at the art.
Yeah, because it doesn't make you a woman if you wear pearls. Good discussion.
You're in the Housatonic Community College, and the artwork in our collection that's housed throughout the museum is free and open for you to come anytime and look. Got very lucky to be able to come and see this exhibit before it moves. Can anybody tell me what was one of their favorite pieces they got to look at? Yes.
The knife actually reminded me of wars and how you shouldn't travel to Cuba.
Is this art done long time ago, or is it done recently? Recently. We call that contemporary art. Okay. All of these artists are still living, okay, and working and making art. And most of this art was produced in the last 10 years. I'd like you to give your docents a big round of applause. They did a great job.